Today I want to talk to you about a topic that I believe is holding many of you back from reaching your goals and dreams. It's something that I have seen time and time again in my years of experience, and that, my friends, is perfectionism is stopping you from taking action. See, perfectionism is a mindset that tells us that everything we do must be flawless and without any mistakes. It's the belief that anything less than perfect is not good enough. Now, on the surface, this may seem like a positive trait to have. After all, who doesn't want to do things perfectly? But the truth is, perfectionism is a dangerous trap that can prevent us from taking action and living our best lives. You see, perfectionism is rooted in fear. It's the fear of failure, the fear of making mistakes, and the fear of not being good enough. And when we let this fear control us, we become paralyzed. We become so focused on getting everything perfect that we forget to take action. We get stuck in the planning stage, constantly trying to make everything just right before we even begin. And as a result, we never actually get anything done. Perfectionism also leads to procrastination. We tell ourselves that we can't start a project until we have all the pieces in place. We need the perfect idea, the perfect plan, the perfect timing. But the truth is, there is no such thing as perfect. And while we wait for perfection, time passes us by. We miss opportunities, we miss out on experiences, and we miss out on reaching our full potential. Another danger of perfectionism is that it sets unrealistic expectations for ourselves. We create this image of what our lives should be like, and when reality doesn't match up, we feel like failures. We beat ourselves up for not being perfect, for not achieving the impossible standards we have set for ourselves. And this constant self-criticism can lead to low self-esteem and a lack of confidence. But here's the thing, my friends. Perfectionism is an illusion. It's an unattainable goal that we chase, and it will always leave us feeling unsatisfied and inadequate. The truth is, there is no such thing as perfect. And even if there was, it would be boring. Our imperfections are what make us unique and interesting. They are what make us human. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't strive for excellence and do our best in everything we do, but there is a big difference between striving for excellence and striving for perfection. Excellence is about doing our best and continuously improving. It's about progress, not perfection. Perfection, on the other hand, is about being flawless, and that is simply not achievable. So what can we do to overcome perfectionism and start taking action towards our goals and dreams? The first step is to recognize that perfectionism is a problem. It's important to acknowledge that our fear of failure and our need for perfection is holding us back. Once we are aware of this, we can start to change our mindset. The next step is to let go of our need for control. Perfectionism is often rooted in our desire to have everything go exactly as planned. But the truth is, life is unpredictable, and things rarely go as planned. We need to learn to let go of our need for control and embrace the unknown. It's in the unknown that we can find new opportunities and experiences that we never would have imagined. Another way to overcome perfectionism is to focus on progress, not perfection. Instead of striving for perfection, strive for progress. Celebrate your small wins and improvements along the way. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress towards your goals. And finally, learn to embrace your imperfections. Our imperfections are what make us unique and beautiful. They are what make us human. Instead of trying to hide them or fix them, embrace them. Embrace your quirks, your flaws, and your mistakes. They are all a part of who you are, and they should be celebrated. We live in a society that constantly bombards us with messages of perfection. We are told to have the perfect body, the perfect job, the perfect family, the perfect life. We are bombarded with images of flawless celebrities and influencers on social media, making us believe that perfection is attainable. But let me tell you, my friends, perfection is a myth. The truth is, there is no such thing as perfection. It is an illusion that we have created in our minds. We have set impossible standards for ourselves, and we are constantly chasing this unattainable idea of perfection. And in this pursuit, we often forget to appreciate and celebrate our imperfections. But here's the thing. Our imperfections are what make us unique and beautiful. They are what make us human. Think about it. Would you rather live in a world where everyone is the same? Or would you rather live in a world where everyone is different, with their own flaws and imperfections? I believe the latter is what makes life interesting and worth living. Perfection is an unattainable goal, and constantly striving for it will only lead to disappointment and frustration. It will hold you back from reaching your full potential and living a fulfilling life. As the saying goes, perfection is the enemy of progress. When we focus on being perfect, we are afraid to take risks and try new things because we are afraid of failure. But let me tell you, my friends, failure is not the opposite of perfection. It is a stepping stone towards it. In fact, some of the most successful people in the world have failed multiple times before achieving their goals. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb, but he didn't see those failures as setbacks. He saw them as opportunities to learn and improve. He understood that perfection is not a destination, it is a journey. We need to shift our mindset from striving for perfection to striving for progress. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for growth and improvement. Embrace your imperfections and use them as a driving force to become a better version of yourself. As long as you are making progress, you are on the right track. Now, I want to address a common misconception about perfection, that it is necessary for success. We often believe that in order to be successful, we need to be perfect. But let me tell you, success has nothing to do with perfection. Success is about setting goals, taking action, and continuously improving. It is about being persistent and resilient in the face of challenges. In fact, I would argue that our imperfections are what make us successful. They teach us valuable lessons and help us grow. They also make us relatable and approachable to others. People are drawn to authenticity, not perfection. So, embrace your imperfections and use them to your advantage. Now, I want to address a group of people who are especially affected by the myth of perfection, the young generation. With the rise of social media, young people are bombarded with images of perfection every day. They are constantly comparing themselves to others and feeling inadequate. But let me tell you, my young friends, you are perfect just the way you are. You don't need to conform to society's unrealistic standards of perfection. You are unique and special in your own way. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Instead of striving for perfection, focus on developing your skills and talents. Work on becoming the best version of yourself, not someone else's version of perfection. On the other hand, progress is real. It is tangible. It is something that we can see and feel. And most importantly, it is something that we can control. We may not be able to achieve perfection, but we can make progress every single day. Let me share with you a personal story. When I first started my journey towards personal development, I was obsessed with perfection. I wanted to be the perfect speaker, the perfect mentor, the perfect role model. But the more I chased perfection, the more frustrated I became. I would spend hours rehearsing my speeches, trying to make every word and gesture perfect. And yet, when I stood on that stage, I could never live up to my own expectations. It wasn't until I let go of my obsession with perfection and focused on making progress that I truly started to grow and improve. I stopped trying to be perfect and instead focused on becoming better with each passing day. And you know what? My speeches became more authentic, my mentoring became more impactful, and my role as a leader became more fulfilling. The same principle applies to all aspects of our lives. Whether it is our relationships, our careers, or our personal goals, progress is what truly matters. It is the small steps that we take each day that lead us towards our ultimate destination. Think about it. If we only focus on perfection, we will never be satisfied. There will always be something that we can improve upon, but if we focus on progress, we can celebrate our achievements and see how far we have come. Now, I'm not saying that we should settle for mediocrity. Far from it. We should always strive to be the best versions of ourselves. But we must also understand that progress is not a straight line. It is filled with ups and downs, twists and turns. And that is okay. In fact, that is what makes the journey towards our goals so exciting and fulfilling. Progress is also about embracing our imperfections. We all have flaws and weaknesses, and that is what makes us human. Instead of trying to hide or fix our imperfections, we should embrace them and use them as opportunities for growth. As the great writer and philosopher Confucius once said, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." But let me tell you, my friends, fear of failure is not something that is unique to you or me. It is something that every single one of us has experienced at some point in our lives. The fear of not being good enough, the fear of making mistakes, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of falling short of our own expectations, these are all forms of the fear of failure. But here's the thing. Fear of failure is not something to be ashamed of. It is a natural human emotion that is designed to protect us from harm. But the problem arises when we let this fear consume us and dictate our actions, when we let it hold us back from taking risks, from trying new things, from pursuing our dreams. That's when it becomes a problem. So how do we overcome this fear of failure? How do we break free from its grip and unleash our full potential? Well, I have some good news for you. It is possible. And today, I am going to share with you some practical steps that you can take to conquer your fear of failure and start living a life of purpose and fulfillment. The first step towards overcoming fear of failure is to understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Let me say that again. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Think about it. Every successful person you admire has failed at some point in their journey. But what sets them apart is that they didn't let their failures define them. They didn't let it stop them from moving forward. Instead, they used their failures as stepping stones towards their ultimate goal. So, my friends, I want you to reframe your mindset when it comes to failure. Instead of seeing it as something to be feared, see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Embrace your failures and use them as a tool to become better, stronger, and wiser. The second step towards overcoming fear of failure is to identify the root cause of your fear. Is it a fear of judgment? Is it a fear of not being good enough? Is it a fear of losing everything you have worked for? Whatever it may be, it is important to identify the root cause so that you can address it head on. One way to do this is to visualize the worst-case scenario. What is the absolute worst thing that could happen if you fail? And then ask yourself, can you handle it? Most of the time, the answer is yes. And that realization alone can help alleviate some of your fears. The third step is to take action. As the saying goes, action cures fear. The longer we sit and dwell on our fears, the bigger they become. But when we take action, we are taking control of our fears and proving to ourselves that we are capable of overcoming them. So, my friends, I urge you to take that first step, no matter how small it may seem. Whether it's signing up for that class you've been wanting to take, starting that business you've been dreaming of, or having that difficult conversation with a loved one, take action. And I promise you, the more you do it, the easier it will become. The fourth step towards overcoming fear of failure is to surround yourself with the right people. As the saying goes, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to overcome your fear of failure, surround yourself with people who have already done it. People who have faced their fears and come out on the other side stronger and more successful. Find a mentor who can guide you, a support system who can cheer you on, and a community who can hold you accountable. Having the right people in your corner can make all the difference when it comes to overcoming fear of failure. And finally, my friends, the last step towards conquering your fear of failure is to have faith in yourself. Believe in your abilities, your strengths, and your resilience. Believe that you are capable of achieving great things, and that even if you do fail, you have what it takes to bounce back and try again. Remember, failure is not the end. It is just a detour on the road to success. And the only way to truly fail is to give up. So have faith in yourself and keep moving forward, no matter how many times you may stumble and fall. Think about it. Every successful person you admire has imperfections. They have made mistakes, faced failures, and experienced setbacks. But what sets them apart is their ability to embrace those imperfections and use them as stepping stones to success. They didn't let their flaws hold them back. Instead, They used them as fuel to propel themselves forward. One of my favorite quotes is by the great Winston Churchill, who said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." This quote perfectly encapsulates the essence of embracing imperfection. Success is not a destination, it is a journey. And along that journey, we will face failures and setbacks. But it is our courage to continue, to learn from our mistakes, and to keep moving forward that will ultimately lead us to success. I want you to think about the most successful person you know. Now think about their imperfections. Can you even name one? That's because their imperfections do not define them. It is their determination, resilience, and perseverance that have brought them to where they are today. So why do we fear imperfection? Why do we let it hold us back from reaching our full potential? It is because we have been conditioned to believe that it is something to be ashamed of. We have been taught to hide our flaws and present a perfect image to the world. But let me tell you, my friends, imperfection is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be celebrated. Our imperfections make us unique. They make us human. They give us character and depth. And most importantly, they give us the opportunity to grow and improve. Without imperfection, there would be no room for growth. We would become stagnant and complacent. I often say that the only way to truly fail is to not learn from our mistakes. When we embrace imperfection, we give ourselves the freedom to make mistakes and learn from them. We no longer fear failure. Instead, we see it as a necessary step toward success. But embracing imperfection is not just about our own personal growth. It is also about how we view and treat others. When we let go of our own need for perfection, we can also let go of our judgment towards others. We can see them as imperfect beings, just like us, and accept them for who they are. This creates a more compassionate and understanding world where we can all support and uplift each other. So how can we start embracing imperfection in our own lives? The first step is to let go of the need for perfection. Stop comparing yourself to others and focus on your own journey. Embrace your flaws and see them as opportunities for growth. And most importantly, be kind to yourself. We are often our own harshest critics, but we must learn to be our own biggest cheerleaders. Another important aspect of embracing imperfection is to surround ourselves with people who accept us for who we are. We are greatly influenced by the people we spend the most time with. So it is essential to surround ourselves with positive and supportive individuals who embrace imperfection themselves. In closing, my friends, I want to leave you with this thought. Imperfection is not a weakness. It is a strength. It is what makes us human and what gives us the opportunity to grow and succeed. So let us embrace our imperfections, celebrate them, and use them to our advantage. As we continue on our journey of personal development, let us remember that perfection is not the goal, but rather it is the courage to embrace imperfection that will lead us to true success and fulfillment. Thank you.
People have asked me for the last 24 years, how do you develop an above-average income? And the answer is, become an above-average person. Develop an above-average handshake. Some people want to be successful, they don't even work on their handshake. As easy as that would be to start on. They let it slide, they don't understand. Develop an above-average smile. Develop an above-average excitement. Develop an above-average interest in other people. Develop an above-average intensity to win. See, that'll change everything. Probably one of the most frustrating experiences in life is looking for an above-average job with above-average pay without becoming an above-average person. It's called frustration. And Mr. Schoaf gave me probably the greatest clue he gave me when I first met him. He said, Jim, if you want to be wealthy and happy the rest of your life, just learn this lesson well. He said, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Then Mr. Schoaf gave me probably one of the most important clues among so many things he taught me, but this was in those early days. Mr. Schoaf was very kind, but he was also very abrupt. And he had these interesting questions to ask. I'm giving him a little rundown one day on how things hadn't worked out for me. He said, Mr. Owen, I've got the answer for you if you will listen carefully. And listen carefully I did that day and for the next 5 years. If somebody's wealthy and happy, you gotta listen. He said, Jim, I've only known you a short time. But he said, it's already my honest opinion that for things to change for you, you've got to change. That wasn't quite the answer I was looking for. But that's the answer he gave me, and I pass it along to you. For things to change for you, you've got to change. Otherwise, it isn't going to change. Before I met Mr. Schoaf, I used to say, I sure hope things will change. Right? That seemed to be my only hope. If it isn't going to change, I'm in serious trouble. And then I discovered it isn't going to change, so I'm in serious trouble. See, I can tell you what the 80s are going to be like. You have dropped into the right place. I did a seminar one time for Standard Oil executives and management in Honolulu. And we're having a conference one day on this big conference table. And one of them said to me, Mr. Rohn, you know some fairly important people halfway around the world. What do you think the 80s are going to be like? I said, gentlemen, I do know the right people. I can tell you. So they all listened very carefully. And I said, gentlemen, based on my wide experience, I can really honestly say to you, in my opinion, in the 80s, it's going to be about like it's always been. Aren't you glad you came? That's inside. I don't pass that around just everywhere. Now, of course, I said that to make a point, but I also said it because it's accurate. It's going to be about like it's always been. It isn't going to change. The tide comes in, and then what? It goes out. For 6,500 years that we know of, recorded history, and probably long before that. So it is not going to change. It gets light, and then what? It turns dark. 6,500 years. See, it's not likely to change. And we're not to be startled by that. If the sun goes down, the guy says, what's happened, what's happened? It means he hasn't been here long, I guess, right? It always goes down about this time. The guy says, well, I don't like that arrangement. Well, you got to talk to somebody besides me, right? It gets light, then it turns dark. In rotation, the next season after fall is what? Winter. Pray tell, how often does winter follow fall? Every year regularly for the last 6,500 that we know of. See, it is not going to change. Now, some winters are long, and some are short, and some are hard, and some are easy, but they always come right after falls. It isn't going to change. Sometimes you can figure it out, sometimes there's no way to figure it out. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it gets in a knot. Sometimes it sails along, sometimes it gets in reverse. See, that's not going to change. The last 6,000 years reads like this: opportunity mixed with difficulty. That's how it reads. It isn't going to change. The man says, well, if it isn't going to change, how will my life ever change? Answer, when you change. And whether I'm talking to high school kids or business executives, my message is always the same. And it goes like this: the only way it gets better for you is when you get better. Let me give you the 4 major lessons in life to learn. Here's 4 majors. It's good to study the majors. In our weekend seminar we teach, some people don't do well because they major in minor things. You've got to be on the lookout. At the end of every week, end of every month, you've got to check, make sure you're not spending major time on minor things. Hey, we go through that whole series. Majors and minors. Now, let me give you two phrases before we get to the four majors. This will set it up and you'll see where I'm going. Two key phrases for your notes. Here's the first one. Life and business is like the changing seasons. That's the first phrase. Life and business is like the changing seasons. One of the best ways to describe life, it's like the seasons. Frank Sinatra sings, life is like the seasons. Now here's the second phrase. Very important. You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. And see, that's how life gets better for you, not by chance, but by change. Now, here's the four major lessons in life to learn. I've got my first book finished, came out a couple of weeks ago. This is in it, the four major lessons in life to learn. Here they are. Number one, learn how to handle the winters. That's lesson one. They come right after falls, with regularity. Some are long and some are short and some are hard and some are easy, but they keep coming. You must learn to handle the nights. They come right after days. You must learn to handle difficulty. It comes right after opportunity. You must learn to handle recessions. They always follow progressions. For the last 6,000. See, it isn't going to change. The lesson you must learn is how to handle it. And there's all kinds of winters, right? The winter when you can't figure it out. The winter when it all goes smash. The winter when it turns belly up. The winter when it won't work, when you've run out of money and you've got a broken heart. See, those are winter times. There's all kinds. Economic winters, social winters, personal winters. When your heart is smashed in 1,000 pieces and the nights are unusually long, your prayers seem to go no higher than your head. It's wintertime. Barbara Streisand sings, "It used to be so natural to talk about forever, but used to be's don't count anymore. They just lay on the floor till we sweep them away. You don't sing me love songs, and you don't say you need me, and you don't bring me flowers anymore." A song of winter. But see, the disappointments come. Those are normal. That's part of life. But the question is, how do you handle it? How do you handle the coming winters and the disappointments and the downtimes? Well, you can't get rid of January by tearing it off the calendar. But here's what you can do. You can get stronger, you can get wiser, and you can get better. The winters won't change, but you can. And that's how life changes for you. See, before I understood, when it was winter, I used to wish it was summer. I didn't understand. When it was hard, I used to wish it was easy. I didn't know. And then Mr. Schoaf gave me a part of his very unique philosophy when he said, "Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better." See, that triggered my whole life change. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge. Wish for more wisdom. That's the key. So that's lesson one. Learn how to handle the winters. Here's lesson two. Learn how to take advantage of the spring. That's the second one. Spring is called opportunity. And spring follows winter. What a great place for it. If you were going to put it somewhere, that'd be the place to put it, right after winter. And pray tell, how often does spring follow winter? Every year with regularity, 6,000. You can almost count on it. See, opportunity always comes. Days follow nights. Isn't that terrific? Opportunity follows difficulty. But here's what you must learn to do. Underline these two words in that key phrase. Take advantage. Underline those two. You must learn to take advantage of the spring. See, just because spring rolls around is no sign you're going to look good come fall. You got to do something with it. In fact, you have to get good at one of two things in life. Planting in the spring or begging in the fall. Or get somebody to do it for you. See, those are about the only alternatives. Now here's what else you must do. Take advantage of the springs quickly, because there's only a few. Just a handful of springs have been handed to each of us. They don't come forever. Life is fairly brief. So you got to read every book you can get your hands on what to do with your springs while they're here. And take advantage, they soon run out. The Beatles wrote, "Life is so short." And for John Lennon, it was extra short. But life is brief. Elton John sings, "She lived her life like a candle in the wind." It's brief. So whatever you're going to do with your life, you got to get at it. Don't just let the springs pass. Here's the third major lesson in life to learn. Learn how to protect your crops all summer. You got to take care of what you start. Sure enough, as soon as you've planted your garden in the spring, the busy bugs and the noxious weeds are out to take it. And here's the next bit of truth. They will take it unless you prevent it. And that's the third major skill to learn. You've got to learn to prevent the intruder from taking all the good you start. It's one of the challenges. Here's two key phrases under number 3. First one, all good will be attacked. On this planet. Maybe not the next one we get to, but on this one, all good will be attacked. Every garden will be invaded. Not to think so is naive. And here's the second phrase. All values must be defended. Political values, social values, community values, family values, marriage values, friendship values, business values. Every garden must be tended all summer. Third major lesson. Now here's number 4. Fourth major lesson in life to learn. Learn how to reap in the fall without complaint. Learn to reap come harvest time without complaint. Take full responsibility for what happens to you. It's one of the highest forms of human maturity, accepting full responsibility. It's the day you know you've passed from childhood to adulthood, the day you accept full responsibility. And another note, learn to reap in the fall without apology. Without apology if you do well, and without complaint if you don't. That's maturity. I used to have that long list of reasons why I wasn't doing well. To explain. You got to explain, right? Otherwise you're going to look bad. I used to have this funny list called Reasons for Not Looking Good. I used to blame the government. I mean, you can believe that or not. It was at the top of my list. I had a lecture second to none. The government. That was on my list. I used to blame taxes. Look what you got left after they take everything. And they expect you to do well. That was on my list there. Prices, that one's easy, right? You walk into the supermarket with $20, come out with a little half bag. So I had that on my list. I used to blame the weather. I blamed the traffic. I used to blame my car. I blamed the manufacturers. I used to blame the company. I blamed company policy. I used to blame the training program. I blame my negative relatives. They were always putting me down. I blame my cynical neighbors. They're just selfish, looking out for themselves. Won't loan you money? They were on my list. I used to blame the economy. I blame the community. That's a pretty good list for not doing well, isn't it? I thought it was good. I'll never forget one day, Mr. Schoaf was very kind, but he was also very blunt, and this was no exception. And I'm glad he was blunt. There's a lot of things I'd have missed if he hadn't have been blunt. One day, with sort of a curious look on his face, he said, "Jim, just out of curiosity, tell me, how come you haven't done well up until now?" Excellent question. I thought, well, so I won't look too bad, I'll go through my list. And this list I just gave you, I put that on him. And he was very patient. He let me go through the whole thing, the government, the weather. I went through this whole thing. When I finished, he looked my list over very carefully. He said, "Mr. Rohn, big problem with your list. You ain't on it." How brilliant. When I went to work for him a few months later, I learned very quickly to tear up my list, reasons for not doing well, and I threw it away. And I got me a fresh piece of paper. And I put one word on it. Me. There's a Black Heritage spiritual that says, "It's not my mother, nor my father, nor my brother, nor my sister, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer." See, I used to blame everything outside. And then let me give you a little philosophy that helped turn my life around. For your notes, here it is. It's not what happens that determines the quality or the quantity of your life. It's not what happens. And the reason is because what happens to about everybody. No different. The sun went down on all of us last night. A common event, a happening. And I found out that the same things can happen to two different people. One gets rich and one stays poor. Why is that? It's because it's not what happens, but rather it's what you do that changes everything. So that's a key phrase. It's not what happens, it's what... Thanks for coming today. I appreciate it very much, and I'm just delighted to be here. How many of you have never seen me before? This is your first time? Wow, everybody. I keep thinking I'm famous, but I guess, that settles that. Anyway, nice to see you. I've got some interesting ideas to share with you. If you're ready, say I'm ready. And if you'll take some good notes, I got some lists for you to make that you can take home with you and ponder at later times. Some of the things I want to share with you. I was raised in southwest Idaho. My parents gave me an incredibly excellent start in my life, which I appreciated very much. But I quit school at age 19, unfortunately. My reasoning was, I'm smart enough to get a job. How much smarter do you need to be? And with that shallow thinking, I quit school, age 19, and got a job, went to work. A little while later, got married, started a little family, and I'm struggling and, trying to do my best. But it seems like each year I'm falling just a little bit further behind. Finally, age 25. The climax of my sort of, weariness with where I was, not doing as well as I thought I should. I hear a knock on my door, and I happen to be home alone. When I opened the door, there was a little Girl Scout about this tall selling Girl Scout cookies. And she gave me the finest sales presentation I've ever heard. Girl Scouts around the world, no better organization. And we've got these cookies, only $2, several flavors. And with a big smile, she very politely asked me to buy. No problem, I wanted to buy. Big problem, I haven't got $2 in my pocket. Now, I'm a grown man. I live in America. I've been to 1 year of college. I'm married. I've got a family. And I don't have $2 in my pocket. And I didn't want to tell her that. So I did what I thought was next best. I lied to her. I said, hey, look, I've already bought lots of Girl Scout cookies. I've still got plenty in the house that we haven't eaten yet. And she said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And she leaves. When she leaves, I say to myself, I don't want to live like this anymore. I mean, how low can you get lying to a Girl Scout? I mean, that's about as low as you can go. But I promised myself that day I was going to start my search of finding opportunity, finding somebody who could teach me and coach me on doing much better for myself and for my family and for my future. And shortly after that, I met a most extraordinary man, very wealthy, but a friend of mine said, you got to meet this man. He's rich, but he's easy to talk to. He's got a unique philosophy of business and life. And the more he told me about this man, the more I said, I've got to meet this guy. And shortly after that, I had a chance to meet him. Sure enough, when I met him, I was impressed. Obviously, he was rich, but he was friendly and easy to talk to. And I said to myself, if I could just get around someone like him, and if he would coach me, I would be willing to learn anything. I'd love to be like him. Well, my good fortune was he invited me to join his company, and over the next 5 years, my dream came true. He coached me and taught me how to turn my life from pennies to fortune. And he's not alive anymore, but I'd like to pay tribute to him one more time, Mr. Earl Schoaf, for the dramatic impact he had on my life, especially during that 5-year period. And so my whole life turned around. I made my fortune by the time I was 32, starting at age 25. And some of the ideas that I want to share with you today came from that 5-year experience. Then from there, I got into lecturing and giving seminars, and I've written a few books, and my career now spans about 41 years. But I'll never forget the impact this gentleman had on my life with a few simple concepts that totally changed my life, changed my future, and changed everything. Jim Rohn's view of the 21st century. Here's number one: unprecedented opportunity. We not only have begun a new century, century 21, it's a new millennium. A millennium is a 1,000-year period. We've had 6 so far. This is the beginning of the 7th millennium, and some scholars tell us that this could very well be an extraordinary time for the human race, this 7th millennium. And there's probably a lot of good reason that that is probably true. Unprecedented opportunity. We've now got the technology. We pick up a telephone now and talk to somebody on the other side of the world. Transportation now is so easy. I get on an airplane in Los Angeles, and 13 hours later, I'm in Tokyo. 5 meals, 3 movies, and you're there. I mean, you know, it's a simple deal. Anyway, we've got technology, we've got transportation, we've got all the rest, right? So this is going to be a time of unprecedented opportunity in every field you can imagine, every industry, every country. It's going to be the greatest period of opportunity time in the history of the human race, the 21st century, especially these opening years of the 21st century. So that's number one, unprecedented opportunity. Now here's the second note to take. Now also keen competition, because we now play the world game. And it's not just competition across the street and company to company and, you know, division to division and, you know, company to company. Now it's worldwide competition. A job now becomes available. Does it go to someone in Minnesota or someone in India? Worldwide competition. So now you've got to be ready to cash in on the opportunity, but you've also got to be ready for the competition. So I've got some interesting ideas on how to be prepared for both opportunity and competition in these opening years of the 21st century. Here's some of my best advice. Number one, you've got to have more than one skill. It's okay to have one skill, but I'm telling you, if you want economic safety for the future, especially this century, my personal opinion, you need more than one skill. We've seen people, right, the last 15, 20 years that only had one skill, worked for this company for a long time. The division the guy worked for got chopped, eliminated. Now he loses his job. Now he tells us he's in economic distress. Why would that be? Simple answer. He only had one skill. So for economic safety for the future, my personal advice, you gotta have more than one skill. In fact, it led me to my first fortune, and that was learning more than one skill. I started learning these extra skills in Idaho, where I grew up. I knew how to milk cows, but it didn't pay very well. Then someone gave me this incredible advice. If you want to lay the foundation for a future fortune, you've got to learn more than one skill. And I started that process age 25. Here's the first one, and I started part-time. A little sales job that I got. A product that I believed in, learned how to present it well enough for somebody to say yes, gave excellent service so that that would lead to multiple sales. And this little extra part-time job in sales absolutely started multiplying my income. From milking cows, now I've got this ability now to start getting customers, keep them serviced, and make some money in this extra skill. So now I've got two skills, milking cows and finding customers. Here's the next skill I learned, just to give you a quick list. Next was finding good people. If you've got a little enterprise going and you need some people, you have to just go look for them. And when I learned this skill, finding good people for my little enterprise, I couldn't believe how it drastically changed my income. My income now starts to multiply, not just increase. So now I've got what? 3 skills: milking cows, getting customers, finding good people. I'm on my way. Here's the next one that paid me big money, in case you're interested, and that's organizing. Organizing simply means getting people to work together. Big challenge, but if you learn this skill, getting people to work together, they pay extraordinary money. Here's the next one that really increased my income substantially, and that's promotion and recognition. Rewarding people for small steps of progress. I mastered this one. And here's the philosophy behind it. Be so busy giving other people recognition, you really don't need it for yourself. I mastered this. Guess what it pays? Big money. Let me just give you one more, and it's in 3 parts. And that's communication. Learning to affect other people with your language. Of all the things not to be lazy about, it's language, because words can work miracles. And communication I found in 3 parts. Here's number 1, training, showing somebody how the job works. Showing somebody how the business works. We call that training. I got good at that, paid big money. Here was the next one, teaching. Teaching people how life works. Teaching people how to set goals. Teaching how to become a leader, manager, entrepreneur. Stepping up to the higher opportunity and better challenge. This one paid me extraordinary money. But this one paid the best. Learning to inspire. Helping people to see themselves better than they are. So I've got how many skills, right? A big long list. So, safety, economic safety for the future, especially the opening years of the 21st century. Learn more than one skill. Here's number 2. It would be good to learn more than one language. Some of my business colleagues who speak 3 or 4 languages earn $3-4 million a year. One of my friends, Leon Weisbein from Russia, I remember when he was making $3 million a year, he spoke 3 languages. Here's what he said: I think I'll learn another language, make another $1 million. Those extra languages are so valuable. When I travel the world, I got to find somebody that knows more than one language, or I'm in deep trouble. If you think the time has passed you by to learn that second, third language, make this note. You heard it from Jim Rohn. Give it as a gift to your children. The second language. Maybe that'll inspire them to learn the third language, and then no telling where it might go from there. I asked a school teacher one time, how many languages can a child learn? Here's what she said: as many as you will teach them. They don't lack capacity, they don't lack intelligence, they certainly don't lack curiosity. They only lack a teacher. So you got my good advice now? More than one skill, more than one language. Here's the rest. Learn the simple economic formula that works for everybody, and I can give it to you in just a couple of sentences. A simple economic formula. Kids can understand it. Anybody can understand it. Anybody that wants to get paid. Here's the language for your notes. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. That's as simple as you can put economics. Anybody that wants to get paid. You get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. The marketplace is the people. Now, the value we bring is one part of it, a product or a service, but here's the other part, the value you become. So just off to the side, put the value is two parts. The value you bring, like a product. If you manufactured it, you might keep improving the product. If someone else manufactured it and you're out selling it, they probably keep improving the product. But this is the one you have to work on yourself. The value you become, like an entrepreneur, a leader, a teacher, supervisor, manager. What you become also pays much more than what you bring. Once I understood that, then here's what my mentor said. Go to work on yourself harder than you work on your job. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. Then he said, if you work hard on yourself, you could make a fortune. So I worked hard on my job and made a living, but I learned, starting with those extra hours per week, learning these extra skills, I started working on myself. And here's a philosophical phrase everybody should take home. Here it is. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. Success is not something you pursue. It's what you attract by becoming attractive. By becoming attractive to the marketplace. What would do that? Multiple skills, multiple languages, and then some of the things I'm going to talk about the rest of the seminar. So, now what else would help you to be attractive to the marketplace besides more than one skill and more than one languages? I've divided it into five simple, basic fundamentals of ideas to ponder and think about that will increase your value to the marketplace. Could perhaps, like it did for me, multiply your income by 2, and then multiply it by 3, and then multiply your income by 4, and then by 5. And once you get there, it's not that difficult to multiply it by 10, because all you have to do is make sure you become more valuable and more valuable and more valuable. You don't have to work on the economy, because here's the first note. Each person's income is determined primarily by their philosophy, not by the economy. Once I understood that, then I said, well, I don't have to go to work on the economy. And the answer was no. You only have to go to work on yourself to make yourself more valuable. So now here's 5 things I want to share with you. And the first one is your personal philosophy. What could get you more prepared and ready for cashing in on the opportunity of the 21st century? And here's the first one, personal philosophy. Your personal philosophy is like a guidance system that helps you make decisions what to do, what not to do. From the information you get and what you learn and what you know, we decide. Maybe your philosophy would have been 5 years ago never to attend seminars like this. You just didn't go. Now 5 years later, here you are. Something happened along the way to change your mindset, saying, hey, for the money and the time, if I just get one good idea and walk away, it certainly is worth the money and the time. So now that little amendment in your philosophy, you now say, I'm going to regularly go, because it doesn't take but a few ideas to make a great difference in your income, personal life, social life, and all the rest. So now you know that's valuable. A change of mind, a change of idea. So that's what personal philosophy is all about. The more we learn, the more we know, the better we're able to make better decisions about two major things. Your philosophical guidance system does two things. For your notes, number one, helps you to see the dangers on one side, so you can avoid those. But here's what else your guidance system does. Personal philosophy helps you to see the opportunities on the other side, so that you can expand those, maximize those. And here's what that's called. The game of life is to minimize the dangers and maximize the opportunities. And the more we know and the more we learn, the more experience we gather in sessions like this, from the sermon on Sunday morning to the books we read and all the rest, helps us to keep continually adjusting our philosophical guidance system so that we minimize more dangers, maximize more opportunities. That's really the game of life. I couldn't put it much more simply. So number one, we're affected by what we know. Now, how do we know more things and learn more things that'll help us readjust our thinking so we can avoid the dangers, maximize the opportunities? Here's number one, learn from personal experience. One way to learn to do something right is what? First do it wrong, right? Mess up, and then you say, wow, that was costly. I'm never going to do that again. So one way to learn to do it right, first do it wrong. Sometimes a negative experience turns out finally to be positive. They say if you survive your first heart attack, you may now live to be a very old person. Why is that? Well, that first heart attack, if you survived it, is called a wake-up call. And maybe the doctor said, one more of these and you're history. And you said, wow. And you make it for the health food store. And you start reading every book you can find on good nutrition, how to avoid another one of these heart attacks. And you start jogging and start walking and doing all of the stuff. And this total change of lifestyle could now save your life and cause you to live to be a very old person. Here's what my mentor said, that's some of the best advice I ever got. He said, Mr. Rohn, if you will change, everything will change for you. If you'll start making personal changes, your income will change, your health will change, your future will change, everything will change, if you're willing to start making the changes. So sometimes a negative experience now causes us to really make a sudden shift in our philosophical guidance system that says, hey, I'm never going to let this happen to me again. Fantastic. Now here's the next way to learn, and that is to learn from other people's experiences, whether they are negative or positive. It's too bad failures don't give seminars like this. Wouldn't that be good information? Now, we don't want to pay them, so they don't lecture, but their information would be valuable. If you know a guy that's messed up his life for 40 years, you have to say, John, would you spend a day with me? And I will bring my notebook and take good notes. A good-looking guy like you, beautiful family, every reason to do well, threw it all away. Teach me how for the last 40 years you messed it all up. And he tells you, and you take good notes. Learning from the negative side of someone's experience. If somebody tells me these eggs are rotten, I'm not going to make an omelet and try it, right? I'm just going to take their advice and their know-how. So, learn number one from your own experiences, learn number two from other people's experiences. And my mentor taught me to always keep a journal. Here's what he said, don't trust your memory. If you want to live a dynamic life, multiplying your income, multiplying your future, be a good student. If a good idea comes your way, write it down, then ponder it, then perhaps go do it. Okay. Now, your philosophy comes from what you learn, comes from what you know, comes from other people's experiences. 3 ways now to learn from other people. Here's number 1, learn from what you see. One of the great watchwords of these early years of the 21st century, pay attention. If you just watch, you can pick up clues. Success leaves clues. And if you'll be a better observer of the winners and the losers, those that are doing well and those that are falling behind, and just take mental notes and good notes and say, I'm going to adjust what I'm doing based on what I see. Here's number 2. We learn so much from other people based on what we hear. Here's good advice on that. Be a selective listener. Listen to voices of value that have experience, ideas, reputation, something valuable to share. Now here's number 3. Read all the books. Now there's millions of books, so you can't read all the books. But make this note. Read all the books you need to read to make you as wealthy as you want to be, as healthy as you want to be, as prosperous, as productive, as unique a human being as you want to be. Read all of those books. Don't leave those books go unread. My mentor got me started on my library when I was 25. I got one of the best. If you saw my library, you would be impressed. I haven't read everything in it, but I feel smarter just walking in it, right? My library. I was smart enough to buy it all. Now I got to be smart enough to read it all. Now jot this down. When you do read, you have to sort through what you read and decide which is valuable to try. That's part of the process of learning. Gathering information and sorting through it. 1, the information that would apply to you, and what you think would be valuable based on your current philosophical opinion. So read all the books. Our lives are greatly affected by what we learn and what we know. Now here's number 2 of these very basic 5 things I want to share with you. First, your personal philosophy. Here's number 2, your attitude. First, we're affected by what we know. When I talk to the kids in high school classes, college classes, that's the first thing I tell them. Get the information while you're here. Right? Nothing worse than being stupid when you get out of school. So get the information. Being broke is bad, but being stupid is what's really bad. And what's really, really bad is being broke and stupid. Nothing much worse than that, unless you're sick. Right? Sick, broke, and stupid. That's about as far as you can fall unless you're ugly, right? But surely that would be the ultimate, right? The ultimate negative life. Ugly, sick, broke, and stupid. So learn all you can. We're affected by what we know, so get the information. Don't be lazy in learning. Don't be lazy in going through the books, building your library, coming to classes like this consistently. Some of them will be so dramatic, your life will never be the same. Maybe this is one of those today. Next, we're affected by how we feel, attitude. This is the emotional part. We need the intellectual part to set sail. So as the winds blow, we can still get where we want to go. Redefine, keep strengthening our psychological and philosophical guidance system. But now we're also affected by the emotions. That's the power. And jot these notes down as I hurry along now. 4 things to consider on attitude and how you feel. Here's number 1. It's how you feel about the past. It's important to make the past useful. Past experience, even past losses, past failures, as well as successes. To review it and go back over it, see where you went wrong, correct that, invest that now in the future. Don't live in the past, and don't carry the past around like a burden, but simply use your past as one of your mentors to help refine mistakes, make some changes that you can invest now in the future. Here's the second attitude. It's how you feel about the future. We look back for experience, but number 2, we look forward for inspiration. Now, where does the inspiration come from? Looking forward. Here it is, learning to set goals. Number one, decide what you want. Takes more than 5 minutes. Take some time and decide what you want. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do the next 10 years, 20 years? What would you like to become? How many skills would you like to learn? What are the books you want to read? How about the people you want to meet? The cities you want to visit? Experiences you'd like to have over this next period of time? Start thinking about all of that. Here's the next key. Write it all down. Building a life is like building a house. You wouldn't start building the house until you had it finished. Wouldn't you look foolish starting to build the house if it wasn't finished first? What if you were laying bricks and somebody came by and said, "What are you building here?" And you said, "I have no idea." See, they would take you away to a safe place. So building a life is a lot more important than building a house. And yet people treat it so carelessly and so casually about planning and making plans for what they want their life to work out to be. So I'm asking you not to be casual anymore. Start designing the future for yourself, for your family, for your business, for your future. Okay, decide what you want. Okay, so from the past we get experience, from the future we get excitement, inspiration by setting goals. Now here's the next advice. Put everything on your list of goals. Little things, insignificant to someone else but important to you. A goal list is important. You don't have to publish it in the local newspaper. My Japanese friend, Toro Ikeda, San Jose, California, put on his first list, a Caucasian gardener. I said, go Toro. Back then everybody had a Japanese gardener. He said, no, I'm Japanese. I want a Caucasian gardener. I like that. So set goals. Set the goals that'll turn you on, goals that'll get you excited. Put everything on your list. Now, here's the next attitude. It's very important how you feel about everybody. If you want to be a leader extraordinaire, here's what you learn. Each of us need all of us. One person doesn't make an economy. One person doesn't make a symphony orchestra. It takes all of us for each of us to be successful. Each of us need all of us, and all of us need each of us. Each gift is important as we bring it to the table, as we bring it to the country, as we bring it to the community. Learn to appreciate that. Each of us need all of us. Now here's the last one on attitude. It's how you feel about yourself. Nothing more powerful than self-confidence to start multiplying your income by 2, by 3, by 5, by 10. And where does that come from? Make the note. It comes from self-esteem. Doing the things you know you should do, and at the end of this day, your self-esteem is soaring and high. You've met the people you said you'd meet. You made the calls you said you would make. You did the things that you required of yourself to do. And at the end of the day, you feel great about yourself. That is one of the greatest motivating factors for the future. Self-esteem, feeling good about yourself. Now let me give you the miracle piece of this formula. If you're ready, say, I'm ready. Here it is. Number 3 is activity. We're affected by what we do. Now we've gotten to the formula of how to turn ideas into reality, how to turn imagination into substance. It's called number 3, activity. So add these notes to it now. Activity is the work. Activity is the labor. You might add labor pains. I'm short on personal experience here, but the mothers in the room would tell us that we know what that's all about. Labor pains. Why would an upcoming potential mother be willing to put herself through maybe a rather painful experience? She said, that's an easy answer. And it's for your notes. It produces new life. Why wouldn't she put herself to the labor? Now comes the miracle of new life. And whether it's new career life or new business life or new friendship life or new married life or new life of any kind, it has to come from the work. It comes from the labor. In fact, labor was so important. Here was the original formula for labor. If you have forgotten it, remind yourself. For your notes, 6 days of labor and what? 1 day of rest. Now, it's important not to get those numbers mixed up. Why is that? Here's why. Why not 5-2? I don't know. Maybe 5 and 2 would be okay. If God would have thought of 5 and 2, he might have made it 5 and 2. But you can't think of everything when you're putting one of these together. But maybe one of the reasons for 6-1, jot this down now. If you rest too long, the weeds take the garden. Not to think so is naive. As soon as you've planted, the busy bugs and the noxious weeds are out to take it. So you can't linger too long in the rest mode. You've got to go back to work. 6 days of work, then rest and spirituality and friendship and change of pace. And then go back over the last 6 days. What did I do? What did I miss? Who did I miss? What happened? So that I can invest those corrections in the next 6 days of higher productivity. Have you got that now? 6 days of work, 1 day of rest. Don't get the numbers mixed up. Activity. Now, activity finishes the miracle. Good question for your notes. How did this convention center get here? Let me give you the steps. Number 1, somebody saw it while the property was vacant. You say, well, how could you see a convention center if it isn't here? It's the only way it will be here. And somebody has to see it so clearly they can draw a picture of it, saying, this is the convention center. You say, no, it isn't there. They say, yes, this is the convention center. The artist's rendering shows you a picture of what isn't there. That's the beginning of imagination. So to turn nothing into something, here's what you do. Imagine the possibilities. That's why we recommend testimonials for someone to say, hey, I started with pennies and I made a fortune. And when they finish, sometimes they say something like this. If I can do it, what? You can do it. And we start imagining the possibilities. Here's number 2. Have faith to believe that some of them are possible for you. And both imagination and faith are powerful forces. But we still don't have a hotel. We still don't have a house. Even though those are powerful forces, it is the beginning. Now, imagination and faith must be deposited in activity or it is wasted. But the finishing touch of the miracle process is now, go to work. Go to work and build a better career. Go to work and build good health. You can't have good health without the work. When did we start hearing that phrase? No pain, what? No gain. You got to do the work. You can read all the books until you're wise. You can have faith and believe until it is extraordinary. But now you must go to work. And if you'll learn to appreciate the work that produces the miracle of good health, the miracle of a career, the miracle of a relationship, the miracle of a fortune. Only humans now can do this. The birds of the field can't do it. No other life form can imagine and create something from nothing. Have faith and then build it and make it real. Only humans. It's an extraordinary gift. Depends on how often you use it. So number 1 of the ideas I wanted to share with you to make this an extraordinary opening year century for you is philosophy. We're affected by what we know. 2nd is attitude. We're affected by how we feel. 3rd is activity. We're affected by what we do. Now here's the final 2 pieces. Number 4, learn to measure progress. Once you've set up a project now, you want to turn nothing into something. Now you must measure your progress. How are you doing? Here's how we teach it to our children. Life expects us to make measurable progress in reasonable time. Measurable progress in reasonable time. That is the game of life. So part of it is not just to set up the proposed project, but as we start working on it, we start measuring how we're doing. Now first, what is reasonable time? You can't ask someone every 5 minutes, how are you doing now? See, that's too soon. Guy says, I haven't left the building yet. Give me a break. Now, we can't wait 5 years. That's too long. So there's reasonable time. So make this note now. What is reasonable time? 1, at the end of the day. A conversation a father should have with his daughter today, because the magic is there. If he waits till tomorrow, the magic may be gone. today. Next is a week. Make that note. Usually, we get paid by the week. Somebody adds up our value to the marketplace, out comes the check. The next week, somebody adds up our value to the marketplace, out comes the check. What I learned to do is to change my value to the marketplace so the check kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I didn't have to change the economy, I only had to change myself. Measure your own progress. Success is a numbers game. We demanded of our children, how many years do you want your child to spend in 4th grade? Approximately. About 1 year, right? You say, well, if they're nice kids, would you give them 3 or 4 years? You say, no. This is not a nice game. This is getting ready for the future. This is getting ready for the challenges and the opportunities. You can't linger in 1 grade more than 1 year. Now make this note. The same should go for us as adults. Don't linger more than 1 year in 1 grade of learning. Adult, management, entrepreneurship, leaderships of all kind. Keep up the pace of learning. Okay. The numbers. Measure. Count. Now here's the key. Face the truth. If you're only making this much progress, you know, there's no use trying to kid the world, no use trying to kid anybody else, and especially don't kid yourself. If in a period of time you've only made so much progress, you just got to swallow hard and say, this is the truth. I've got to face it. Now, what could I do to start increasing my progress and make my health better, make my income better, make my investments better, make my value to the marketplace much better, get busy learning the 2nd skill and the 3rd skill and the next language and the next language to increase my value? I got to get busy and do that. See if you will do that. I promise you, one of the greatest motivating factors in the world is progress. And if you'll measure it, you'll get excited. Now here's number 5 of the 5 major things I wanted to share with you to make these opening years of the 21st century really pay off for you. And here's the word, lifestyle. Learning to live well, because the ultimate essence of life is not a Ferrari. The ultimate essence is not a home. The ultimate essence is not a bank account. It's not $1 million. It's not a fortune. Here it is. The ultimate essence of life is learning to live a good life. That's the key. Whether you have modest resources or whether you have mega millions, either way, the real key is learning to live a good life. And so in my closing 5 minutes, let me give you what I think is a good list. Now, this is the short list. In other presentations, I cover a longer list, but this is called Jim Rohn's short list for living the good life. Here it is. Number 1, productivity. You really won't be that happy if you don't produce. And here's the next bit of advice on that. Produce to the max if you possibly can. To produce a little is okay. To produce enough is okay. To produce some to get by is all right. But why not try productivity to the max? Andrew Carnegie, who built the steel industry back in the 30s, here's what Andrew said. I'm going to spend the first half of my life accumulating money. I'm going to spend the last half of my life giving it all away. He got so inspired by that goal that the first half of his life he accumulated $400 million, which back in the 30s was a lot of money. A mega fortune. Guess what he did the last half of his life? He gave it all away. I got a good question for you as we close. Here's the question. What's got you turned on? What's got you up early? What's got you eager to face the day? What's got you inspired to learn the extra skill, put in the extra time, go the extra mile, learn how to work with people, guarantee your future? Good question. Here's number 2, good friends. You got to have good friends. The best support system in the world is good friends. Collect and nourish those as priceless. Good friends are those wonderful people who know all about you and still like you. Those are good friends. Here's number 3, your heritage. What's made America so unique among all the nations of the world and the greatest experiment in the history of the world? And that is the depository of gifts that have come to America over the last 300 or 400 years. The heritage from all walks of life, all over the world. Now, the key to keeping America vital and powerful and unique for generations to come is to keep alive these heritages. The music, the dance, the costume, the customs, the literature, the poetry, and all the rest combined together, making us an extraordinary, unusual nation among nations. Keep your heritage alive. Here's number 4, your spirituality. Whatever you believe in terms of spirituality, that's important. And I've got 3 words for you to consider. Here they are. Study, practice, and teach. Whatever you believe in terms of spirituality, study, practice, and teach. Don't leave your spirituality unstudied, don't leave it unpracticed, and don't leave it untaught. It's one of the major components of a good life. And now to close for your notes. Take special care of the inner circle. Family, close friends. Nourish them, they will nourish you. Inspire them, they will inspire you. And take care of the details, the little things that makes it special for family and friends. When my father was still alive after my mother died, my father lived about another 7, 8 years. When I used to travel, I would try to call him while he was having breakfast with the farmers, southwest Idaho. Make a special day. If I'm in Israel, I got to get up in the middle of the night, but I call in the middle of the night, Papa, I'm in Israel. And they would bring him the phone in this little cafe called the Decoy Inn. And Papa would say, Israel, son, how are things in Israel? And he'd talk real loud so everybody could hear, right? Say, Papa, they gave me a reception last night on the rooftop overlooking the Mediterranean. He'd say, overlooking the Mediterranean. Now he's got a story to tell for the rest of the day. My son called me this morning while I was having breakfast with the farmers. I know he had to get up in the middle of the night. Special days. One more scene. I thought about my father walking down the lane on the farm to the mailbox, opening it up. And this is for your notes. Make sure the mailbox is not empty. My father lived to be 93. What kind of an experience would that be for a day? Age 93, open the mailbox and it's empty. Even if it's just a postcard, make sure the mailbox is not empty. The details, the inner circle. And now here's the last. Maybe, just maybe, some of the things I've shared with you have been seeds that have fallen on your consciousness at the right time. And then if it turns into something valuable for you in the future, that will be well worth my coming, being away from my grandchildren and my children for a little while, to come and deposit the best of my experience with all of you today. Thank you very much. God bless.
Here's how to really cash in on this year. Get serious. Life is serious. We're here to instruct, we're here to grow, we're here to learn, we're here to get the best we possibly can. Serious. Life is serious. The future is serious. How come such a difference from those who can reach such incredible heights and those who haven't yet found the answers for their life and their health and their future? We just have to ponder that and let that give us a note of seriousness. A note of seriousness. It's serious whether you win or lose. It's serious whether you succeed or fail. It's serious whether you've got a good future carved out for yourself or you do not have. And I'm asking you to take it serious. Take your own future serious. What you can do for your family, take it serious. This is serious business.
So that's the first thing I want to bring to you. To have the best year ever this year, get serious. Study, learn, grow, change, develop. Never let it be said you didn't learn, right? If you want to solve your problems, you got to learn. If you want to take advantage of an opportunity, you got to learn. We can't come here and just give you the marketing plan, give you the product, send you home. We got to stay for a while. Learn, stay for a while. Put on those cassettes and stay for a while. Learn from your own experience, right? So the call didn't go well, all the stuff. Guess what they did when they finished that call? They made another call. What else could we do to make it better? How could we possibly improve? This is called the possibility for life change. Starts with education. Don't be lazy in learning. Don't be lazy in picking up the ideas. Don't be lazy in learning from your own experience. That's why you've heard from some people that have shared their testimonial here and given you some of their ideas, ways, and means. Learning is the beginning of wealth. Learning is the beginning of life change. Do some learning. Take it back home. To have your best year ever, make your dreams come true, get smart. A few simple disciplines practiced every day, and you've started a whole new process called a whole new life. And if you keep up that process, not only with your health habits, but with your money habits and with your communication habits, with your sales habits and management habits and every other habit that you've got, if you'll start that process, eliminate the errors and replace it with disciplines practiced, I'm telling you, you can start this process of life change immediately. After today, you don't ever have to be the same again, only by choice. Errors in judgment, disaster. Few simple disciplines, wealth beyond imagination. Let the miracle of everything that's available work for you, and start working on the inside. Work on your philosophy, work on your attitude, work on your personality, work on your language, work on the gift of communication, work on all of your abilities. And if you'll start making those personal changes, I'm telling you, everything will change for you. Work on yourself, then you bring more value to the partnership, to the marriage, to the franchise, to the corporation, to the enterprise, to the community, to the nation. Self-development, personal development. The best contribution you can make to someone else is self-development. Not hasty if it isn't required, but don't lose much time. Here's the time to act. When the idea is hot and the emotion is strong. That's the time to act. Don't use the excuses they use. It's called the language of the poor. Switch gears, switch language, switch ideas, switch strategy. Start with the simplest of disciplines. And don't bemean any of these disciplines. The smallest of disciplines starts the process of life change. And if you'll invest in this thing called discipline, you can have whatever you wish. It's called the beginning of a miracle. If you will get better, everything will get better for you. What a clear message that was for me. He said, if you'll change your philosophy, if you'll change your habits, if you'll refine your thinking, if you'll change and accept some new disciplines, if you'll turn the corner where you've been in the past, go for a new life for the future, he said all kinds of remarkable things will happen for you if you will change. Here's what we must learn to do. I didn't go to work to try to change circumstances. I went to work to try to change myself. And I picked up that promise. My teacher shared with me that if I would change, my income would change. If I would change, my bank account would change. If I would change, my future would change. And sure enough, his promise came true for me. You know, the companies were about the same. What they paid was the same. Circumstances around me were the same. You know, my negative relatives were the same. But I was not the same. That's how my life changed. Things started working for me, changing my life all those years ago. We don't have to change what's going on out there. That's the wind that's blowing. All we have to do is change what's going on in here. And now there's several ways to do that. The first subject he called personal development. We must learn from personal experience. Pretty simple. Learn from what happens to you. Take a look back over the last few months. Did you make some mistakes? How could you correct those for the future? Take a look back over the last year. Have you done it right or done it wrong? Let's correct it for the next year. Mr. Shope asked me when I first met him, he said, Mr. Owen, how are you doing? You've been out there now 6 years. And I said, I'm not doing very well. He said, I suggest you not do that anymore. What a simple, swift analysis to my situation. He said, if you keep doing it, the next 6 years will be like the last 6. You don't want that to happen. Let's make the changes. So learn from your personal experience. Second, other people's experiences. That's me, other people. That's your teacher. That's your friends and colleagues, the people you meet that can pass along to you their experiences, what's happened to them, the mistakes they made, how they corrected them, how they changed their health and changed their bank account and changed their income and changed their future. Other people. Now, there's two kinds of people to learn from. One is failures. It's too bad failures don't give seminars, right? That would be valuable. Have them tell you how they lost it all and threw it all away, threw their health away and threw their friendships away and things didn't work out well. That would be valuable. But now then we must also learn from positive, people that have done well. They've got the health, and so we ask them, how did you become so healthy? They've got the skills, so we ask them, how did you become this skillful? They've got the income, so we ask them, how did you get here in such a short period of time? So now here's what's important in personal development. In learning from other people, we learn, number one, by observation. We learn what we see. We watch people that are successful in what they do. In sports, we watch their disciplines. In business, we watch their disciplines. Second, we learn by what we hear. Learn by listening. And then listen to the sermon on Sunday morning. Listen to the lectures. Listen to the teacher. Listen to someone who's got something good to say. And then number three is vitally important on personal development, and that is read all the books you can possibly read in your lifetime. Mr. Schoaf got me started on my library. I've got one of the better libraries. And then I started keeping a journal. One of the major things my teacher taught me was to keep a journal. He said, don't trust your memory. If you hear something good, just make a little note and write it down. So I would suggest you do the same. Things that impress you, a poem that impresses you. When you attend a class, some of the ideas that impressed you, jot them down. You read something in a magazine, right? Some ideas, take those out, put them in your journal. Keep a good journal the rest of your life. This will serve you well. So I want the same thing to happen to you. Value captured that you can resort to later. Go back over it and review it and let it become valuable to you. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Develop the skills. Learn the lessons. Take the classes. Absorb all that is being taught to you these days. And then later on, of course, you can sort it out, what's valuable to you and how to refine it for your business and for your life and for your future. But the main thing is to get it and start this process of personal change. Now let's cover the second subject, setting goals. We need to take a look into the future. There are four things to consider in terms of attitude. One is how you feel about the past. Best advice I can give you on that is treat the past as a school. Let it teach you the mistakes you've made, the things that went wrong, the things that didn't work. Don't use the past as a burden to carry, and don't use the past as a club to beat yourself to death. Past losses, past failures, past mistakes. But let the past be a school. Tough school maybe. We've all been through some tough stuff. So if you feel good about the past, draw from it for experience and let it teach you. Then next is how you feel about the future. We've got to have the future well designed. The future is called the promise. The promise of the future can be an awesome force. Designing the future, there's two ways to face the future. One is with apprehension, and the other is with anticipation. I promise you, in my travels around the world, most people face the future with apprehension. And here's why. They don't have it well designed. They've sort of left that up to someone else to fix. But here's the best way to face the future, with anticipation. You can face the future with anticipation if the future is clear, if the future is well designed. In setting goals, it's very simple. Number one, decide what you want. You just take a little time. You sit down and say, what do I want? What kind of skills do I want? What kind of income do I want for the future? Where would I like to go? Places I'd like to visit? Habits I'd like to acquire? Skills I'd like to have? Economics? Friendships? People you'd like to meet? When you've thought about what you want for the future, make a list. If the future gets clear, the price gets easier. Because you got to remember, for every promise, there's a price to pay. Everybody's got to pay the price. Everybody's got to do the deal. Everybody's got to do the disciplines. But here's what I've discovered. If the promise is clear and powerful, the price is easy to pay. The price is some classes. The price is a few books. The price is a few disciplines. The price is finding something that'll make your life better, make you grow, make you change, make you develop. So the first part of the key is to design the promise. Then, what is the price to pay? I'm telling you, the price will be easy. If you'll make the promise of the future clear for yourself, all of the values of life that you could possibly want, and be serious about it, I promise you it's an easy price to pay. Anybody can pay it. And the best advice I can give you is, if I can do it, you can do it. Start setting your goals and see if you can't get a better excitement going for the things you want to accomplish for the future. One of the major reasons for setting goals is for what they make of you in achieving them. My teacher advised me when I first got started at age 25. He said, "Jim, why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? I'm here to help you." And he said, "Here's why. For what it will make of you to achieve it. Set the kind of goals that will make something of you to achieve them." So part of the key here is to set the kind of goals that will make something of you. Don't set them too low so that you don't have to grow and you don't have to read and you don't have to try and you don't have to stretch. Don't set them too low. And then don't sell out. Don't go for something that's going to cost you your virtue or cost you your values or sell out your principles. There's a good middle road here to follow. Goals that will inspire, goals that will help you grow, change, develop, and become better than you are. So if you want something to pull you through all kinds of challenges, all kinds of difficulties, and things that come at you, you got to have something on out there, beyond today, beyond next week, beyond next month, beyond this year, that pulls you into the future. And the clearer it is, the stronger it pulls. The more dynamic it is, the more it affects your life, your spirit, your heart, your soul. It also creates imagination. It gets your mind working on how to achieve that purpose. And if your mind will work, and if your heart works, and if your spirit works, and if you have good input, like good ideas, I'm telling you, there isn't anything you can't accomplish. Ideas gather dust, they don't produce at all by themselves. It's like philosophy is not the end. Philosophy is the beginning. Philosophy must be invested. When I talked about philosophy, attitude, and disciplines, they must be invested. And if you invest philosophy and attitude in disciplines, then they produce results. Here's a good phrase: wisdom uninvested in labor is wasted. Attitude, even the highest of attitude, which is faith. Faith uninvested is wasted, produces nothing. So the name of the game is not faith. The name of the game is not philosophy. The name of the game is to put faith and philosophy into activity so that it starts making progress. Turning nothing into something. Let me give you that formula while I'm on it here. Turning nothing into something. How do you do that? How do you turn nothing into something? Here's how you start. There's 3 steps to it. Number 1, imagination. And try to imagine yourself in those new, worthwhile, unique positions. So imagination starts to change everything. Now, imagination is not tangible, but it is almost real. Almost real. It's not real, but it's almost real. But it's hard to say that imagination is nothing. But it's nothing in terms of tangible. It's not tangible yet. And you always have to say yet. Imagination is not tangible yet. But it is the beginning of turning nothing into something. It's the beginning of turning nothing into reality. Imagination. Imagination is the ability to see things that don't yet exist. Imagination is real in the sense that it affects. It'll affect your behavior, it'll affect your enthusiasm, it'll affect your emotions. It's real in that sense, but it's not real in the tangible sense. Next is faith. To believe that what you imagine is possible. How do we start to strengthen our belief in that what we imagine is possible, to turn it into reality? And there's 2 or 3 ways. One is to believe your own testimony. If you've done it before, why couldn't you do it again? If you've done it once, couldn't you do it the second time? Why not believe in your own testimonial? If I did it before, I can do it again. And that's what's important about personal development. You can lose the money, but not the skill, so who cares about the money? It's like sales. A skill is more valuable than a sale. Sometimes a salesperson says, I need a sale. I said, no, you need a skill. Sales are temporary. Skills are permanent. Now we move to faith to believe that what we imagine is possible. So we study our own testimonial. If we've done it before, we can do it again. Here's what else we study. Other testimonials of somebody who did it. Somebody that built a hotel said, yes, I started with some plans and finally believed it was possible, and here it is. Say, well, if it's possible for one, it's possible for another. In fact, sometimes when we hear the testimonial, here's how they finish. If I can do it, you can do it. See, that's a classic testimonial that gives us now what we call faith. And one of the ancient wise writers said, faith is generated by what we hear. The vocabulary of what we hear, the vocabulary of what we read. That generates faith, to believe that it's possible. Now, faith is not reality. You can't say faith is nothing, because it affects. It's like radiation. To us, it's nothing because it can't be seen. Right? You can't see it, but it has an incredible effect. And that's true of faith. Faith can't be seen, right? With the natural eye, it can't be seen, but it has an incredible effect on your attitude, on your behavior, on your disciplines, on your work for the day, and all the rest. Here's what one writer described faith. Faith is a substance of hope. Now, it's not a substance like a brick being a piece of the hotel, but it's almost. It's so close, it's substance. And the writer also said it's so close, it's evidence. Now, not evidence you can see, but tangible evidence that's just as real as all of our human experiences that can't be touched, can't be seen. It's called the unseen magic. Language is the unseen magic. It can't be seen. The words can't be seen as they're transmitted from the speaker to the one who listens, but it can have a profound effect. That means it's more than nothing. Language is more than nothing, but to create something out of nothing, we start with imagination, then we move to faith, which believes it's possible, which is almost real. But now here's what we do with faith and imagination. We deposit it in disciplines and activity. Because faith without the activity serves no useful purpose. Imagination without the activity to translate it into reality serves no purpose. But wisdom and faith deposited in activity creates reality. The reality of a career, the reality of a hotel that wasn't there. Now here's all you got to do to turn that around. A few simple disciplines practiced every day. A few simple disciplines practiced every day starts to create success. Not at the end of the first day. The first day is the end of a new beginning.
Every new discipline affects the rest. Every new discipline makes a difference. That's why action is so important. The smallest action, the least action. The action that you won't think will matter. It all matters. Take it. Because when you start accomplishing and the value starts to return, you'll find inspiration to do the next one and the next one and the next one. But for this whole process to work for us, we must first master the art of discipline, self-discipline, consistent self-discipline. It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how much you know if you don't use it. It doesn't really matter that you graduated magna cum laude if you're stuck in a low-paying job. It doesn't really matter if you attended every seminar that comes to town if you don't apply what you've learned. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results. Refine our approach. Finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, Our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results, admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success. It takes consistent self-discipline to master the art of setting goals, to master the art of time management, to master the art of leadership, to master the art of parenting and relationships. If we don't make consistent self-discipline part of our daily lives, the results we seek will be sporadic and elusive. It takes a consistent effort to truly manage our valuable time, or we'll be consistently frustrated. Our time will be eaten up by others whose demands are stronger than our own. It takes discipline to conquer the nagging voices in our minds, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of poverty, the fear of a broken heart. It takes discipline to keep trying when that nagging voice within us brings up the possibility of failure. It takes discipline to admit our errors and recognize our limitations. The voice of the human ego speaks to all of us. Sometimes the voice of ego says that we should magnify our value beyond our results. It leads us to exaggerate, to not be totally honest. It takes discipline to be totally honest, both with ourselves and with others. It takes discipline to change a habit, because habits are formed a little bit each day, every day, every day. Once habits are formed, they act like a giant cable. They act like a nearly unbreakable instinct that only long-term disciplined activity can change.
You just got to go home and make a list after today. And here's the question to ask as you make this personal list. What am I not doing that would be easy to do? That could greatly change my health, my wealth? What am I not doing I'm neglecting that would be easy to do? Just go home and answer that question personally. You don't have to put the answers on a public bulletin board. This is just all personal stuff. But here's how you get a miracle going for your life. Number one, do what you can. Get a list of the stuff you could do and you haven't done, postponed, and start cleaning that up. You can't start at a better place for personal change. That'll affect your bank account, affect your future, affect your income, affect everything. You can't start a better life change process than cleaning up what you should be doing. The man says, well, my mother lives down in Florida. Should have written her 6 months ago. I just can't seem to get that letter written. I'm asking you to get that letter written, clean that up, and don't walk like other people walk. Don't postpone like other people postpone. You say, well, is it as simple as writing a letter? And the answer is yes. Where else would you start for life change, personal change? Now, here's the second part of the miracle. Number one is do what you can. Here's number two, do the best you can. If that's not your philosophy, I would ask you to amend it. Let me give you the best of ancient script. Here's what it says. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might, do it with all your strength, and do it with all your power. What a good philosophy. That kind of philosophy will revolutionize your life if you haven't picked it up lately. Guy slips in late, company doesn't seem to mind, slips out early, first one in the parking lot, heading for happy hour. Stretches his break, comes early for lunch, late back from lunch. Company doesn't seem to notice. Guy says, best as I can calculate, I'm putting in about a half a day's work and I'm collecting a full day's pay. Little does he know the seeds of his own disaster are already being sown by the weakness of his own personal philosophy. It's not the economy that's going to determine your next 6 years. It's your philosophy about labor and about activity and about miracle and soil and seed and sunshine and rain and the economy and the banks and the money and the companies and the schools and what's going on. It's your philosophy and your attitude and then your ability to take action. All of that we call the process of life change, miracle working.
Consistent self-discipline.
Set up a discipline when the emotions are high and the idea is strong and clear and powerful. That's the time to set up the discipline. Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Say, right, I need to get a book on nutrition.
Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups. Action. Got to take action. Otherwise, the wisdom is wasted. Otherwise, the emotion soon passes. Unless you put it into a disciplined activity. Capture it. Disciplines is called how to capture the emotion and how to capture the wisdom and translate it into equity. Disciplines. You start walking around the block, it'll inspire you to get an apple. Get an apple, it'll inspire you to get a book. Get a book, it'll inspire you to get a journal. Get a journal, it'll inspire you to grow, develop some skills. All disciplines affect each other. Every lack affects the rest. Every new affects the rest. The key is to diminish the lack and set up the new. And you've started a whole new life process. Also, one more thought on discipline. Here's the greatest value of discipline. Self-worth. Self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to disciplines. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit. Right? The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough. You say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy. Here's the problem with the least neglect. Neglect starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all, when neglect starts, it diminishes our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. You say, well, how can I get back my self-respect? I'm telling you, you don't have to go to 29 classes. All you have to do is start the smallest discipline that now corresponds to your own philosophy, like I should, and I could, and I will. No longer will I let neglect stack up on me so that I will have the sorry scenario 6 years from now, giving some excuse instead of celebrating my progress. That's the key to discipline. Okay? Let's get kids involved in the least of disciplines. One more, and then another one, and then another one, and then some more. And the first thing you know, you're starting to weave the tapestry of a disciplined life into which you can pour more wisdom and more attitude and more strong feeling, more faith and more courage. Now you've got something, a vessel in which to put it. And now the equities start to flow. And the early return, I'm telling you, if you'll start this process, the early return will have you so excited. You'll commit yourself to this strategy for the rest of your life. You'll never go back to the old ways. Join a new crowd. Join a new group. The disciplines to do it. Take action.
Now here's the other side of discipline. If there's considerable time that passes between the moment of awareness and the time of our implementation, then that is called procrastination. Procrastination. Doing it tomorrow instead of today. Procrastination. An almost exact opposite of discipline. The voice within us says, get it done. Discipline then says, do it now. Do it to the best of your ability, today, tomorrow, and always, until finally, the worthy deed becomes instinctive. Procrastination says later, tomorrow, whenever I get a chance. Procrastination also says, do what is necessary to get by or to impress others. Do what you can, but not what you must. In every circumstance we face, we are constantly presented with these two choices. Do it now or do it later. Discipline and procrastination. A choice between a disciplined existence, bearing the fruit of achievement and contentment, or procrastination. The easy life for which the future will bear no fruit, only the bare branches of mediocrity. The rewards of a disciplined life are great, but they're often delayed until some time in the future. The rewards for the lack of discipline are immediate, but they are minor in comparison to the immeasurable rewards of consistent self-discipline. An immediate reward for lack of discipline is a fun day at the beach. A future reward of discipline is owning the beach. For most, we choose today's pleasure rather than tomorrow's fortune. So how can you get rid of the easy distractions? How can you keep your mind on what you're trying to do? How can you keep an attitude of doing it all and doing it now? How can you make the choice of discipline over procrastination? How can you stay focused on your ambitions? How can you avoid conversations at the water cooler? You can keep your focus on your work. You can get it done today instead of tomorrow. You've got to really work on your consistent self-discipline on a daily basis, or you'll find yourself distracted. Distracted by negative thoughts, distracted by negative people, distracted by water cooler chatter, and pretty soon, depending on the type of people you've associated with, distracted by your doubts within yourself. Never underestimate the power of influence and associations. And never underestimate the power of your own consistent self-discipline. Now let's take a closer look at discipline, at the 3 steps to becoming disciplined. First, true discipline is not the easiest option. Most people would rather sleep until 10 o'clock than get up at 6. It's easier to go to bed late, sleep late, show up late, leave early. It's easier not to read. It's easier to turn on the television than to open a book. It's easier to do just enough than to do it all. Waiting is always easier than acting. Trying is always easier than doing. Imagine what life would be like if we didn't have to make our bed in the morning, or keep our garage clean, or pay our taxes, or show up for work tomorrow. Wouldn't it be fascinating if we didn't have to do these things? Wouldn't it be fascinating? What do you suppose would become of us? You're right, not much. For whatever the reason, the system we live in and contribute to is designed to make the easiest things in life the most unprofitable. Profitable seems to be the most difficult. Our world is and always will be a constant battle between the life of ease and its momentary rewards and a life of discipline and its far more significant rewards. Each has its own price, the price of discipline or the price of regret. The second lesson of discipline is that it's a full-time activity. And we've said that the best form of discipline is consistent self-discipline. You see, the discipline that it takes to make your bed every day is the same discipline necessary for success in the world of business. The discipline to organize your garage is the same discipline to organize your business. All disciplines carry through to affect all parts of our lives. If we're disciplined in just one area and lazy in another, guess what? Pretty soon, the lazy side will creep in and destroy the disciplined side. The bad habits in one area of our life will eventually destroy our self-discipline in the areas we've been working on. Consistency cannot be inconsistent. Discipline is the mind being trained to control our lives. Discipline is a set of standards which we've selected as a personal code of conduct. Discipline is imposing on ourselves the requirements for honoring these standards. Once we've adopted these standards of behavior and conduct, we're committed to honor them. And if we don't, then there can be no disciplined activity. Here's the third step to becoming consistently self-disciplined. Number 1 is realizing that discipline isn't the easiest option. Number 2, discipline is a full-time activity, day by day, every day. And the third step to becoming self-disciplined is really a philosophy that holds one of life's unique promises. Number 3 simply says, for every disciplined effort, there is a multiple reward. That's one of life's great arrangements. Life is full of laws that both govern and explain behaviors. But this may well be the major law we need to understand. For every disciplined effort, a multiple reward. For every disciplined effort, a multiple reward. What a concept. If you render unique service, your reward will be multiplied. If you're fair and honest and patient with others, your reward will be multiplied. If you give more than you expect to receive, your reward is more than you expect. But remember, the key word here, as you might well imagine, is discipline. Everything of value requires care and attention. Everything of value requires discipline. Children require discipline. They must have a structure built for them. They must have boundaries to work within so they feel secure and comfortable to explore and grow. They must learn to recognize what's right and what's wrong, what's acceptable behavior, what's not acceptable. Children require unwavering discipline, consistent discipline, or they'll be confused as to how they're supposed to behave. The most valuable form of discipline is the one that you impose on yourself. Don't wait for things to deteriorate so drastically that someone else must impose discipline into your life. Wouldn't that be tragic? How could you possibly explain the fact that someone else thought more of you than you thought of yourself? That they forced you to get up early and get out into the marketplace when you would have been content to let success go to someone else who cared more about themselves. Your life, my life, the life of each one of us is going to serve as either a warning or an example. In the end, it is your own discipline that acts as the magic catalyst to give substance and depth to your ambition, to achieve your own plans and dreams, to have what you want to have, and to become what you want to become. Your consistent self-discipline is the magic catalyst.
Humans also need words. Words nourish the mind. Words give life. Words create insight. Because there's more than one way to see. If we see with our eyes, we call that sight. But there's another way to see called insight. That's why we come, gather for a couple of days, attend the classes, go to the training, read the books, do all the stuff, is to develop more insight. Letting our mind be nourished to think, ponder, and wonder, and conceive ideas, projects, purpose. Give structure to something for the future, whether it's better health or better career, better future. Next, the mind needs to be exercised. And we talked a bit about that earlier. Exercised by debate. Exercised by reading both sides of the debate, both sides of the question. Major life issues, major political issues. Don't leave yourself out of the great debate. One, the mind needs to be nourished by ideas. Second, it needs to be refined and stimulated and exercised by debate. We need both sides of the human drama represented. The reason why the Bible is such a classic book in studying all kinds of stories is because the Bible is full of stories on both sides, the evil side and the good side. The Bible said, Old Testament said, this king came to power and he was a good king. He ruled for 18 years. And then it says the next king came to power and he was a bad king and he put up idols. He became the bad king. So it reads good king, bad king, showing both sides of the human spectrum and drama. Some stories that we read in the Bible of people to admire, others are people to despise. In your library, you need a book on Gandhi and you need a book on Hitler. One book to show you how noble someone's aspirations can be, and the other book to show you how despicable and how evil someone's goals can be. Both sides we study good and evil, one we love and one we hate. We study illness, we study health. Someone says, well, you can't study the negative things. You have to study the negative things. You have to give voice to and mind to and time to both sides of the issue so that you can strengthen your side of the argument. Then our personal philosophy needs to be developed so we can see the opportunities on the other side so we can maximize those. And for the balance of your life, that's going to be the twin challenge in developing ideas and philosophy and strengthening all of it so that you can avoid the dangers, maximize the opportunities. Because the dangers never go away. The dangers to our ship of state called the country. The danger to the enterprise, the danger to the corporation. Dangers always lurk, both inside and out. Dangers lurk on the inside of our own mind. The battle of the mind is significant for us every day, what to think, what not to think. My mentor, Mr. Shove, said, stand guard at the door of your mind. And you decide what enters. You decide what to fill up your mind with, because it becomes the material with which you build your future. So, engaging the mind to make rational decisions about life. Beware of the thief on the street that's after your purse, but also beware of the thief in your mind that's after your promise. The thief in your mind that says you're too short, you're too tall, you've never done it before. What makes you think you can do it now? It's not going to work for you. Someone else could find the book, you'll never find the book. If you found the book, you wouldn't read it. If you did read it, you wouldn't understand it. That's stuff that goes on in our mind. So jot down this key phrase. It's one of the best for the day. Whatever you do, don't become a victim of yourself. As you engage in this debate, what to eat, what not to eat, where to go, where not to go, what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do, make sure that you strengthen the positive side of this argument with yourself so that day by day you become healthier, day by day you become stronger, day by day you become wiser. Day by day, you build a better shield and immunity. An inside immunity to ward off disease, but an outside immunity to ward off all the negative and all the trash and all the stuff that would not enhance your personal development nor your promise for the future. So this is so important in understanding the mind. Feed it. We call it food for thought. That's what a big share of this whole seminar is all about these 3 days, is providing food to think about, thoughts to think about, and then ideas to debate. And it's not necessarily what's right or what's wrong, but what's better, what's best. This is okay, but this would be better. With this, yes, you can manage, but with this, you can flourish. With this, you can exist. With this, you can live a fantastic life. So, exercising the mind. Now, to develop the mind, you need a good library. Let me give you 3 parts to your library. Number 1 is your visual library. Zig and I and others have put things on video so you can see it. We ask you to come here today and see what's going on. So part of it comes by visual. Come and see. And then if it's on video, you can see it again and again and again. Key phrase, repetition is the mother of learning. Repetition is where if we hear it again, we see something we didn't see when we heard it the first time. We see something different that we didn't see the first time. Next is your listening library. Zig Ziglar's right. Turn your car into a mobile classroom. You can have a university education in a fairly short period of time just using the traveling time to listen. Key phrase is to listen to voices of value. Discriminate in your listening time. Listening to someone of reputation, someone who has good ideas, someone that's been recommended that has some value. Don't waste your time listening to things that don't count much. Hey, there's some things that are not worth spending the time. You know, they create more poison than they do benefit. So be careful. If somebody says to me, these eggs are rotten, I'm not going to make an omelet and try it. I'm going to take their word for it. So feed the mind, exercise the mind, and build your library. Make this note. You cannot live on mental candy. Just like you can't feed your children ice cream all the time and hope that they will be healthy. So you cannot live on mental candy. Someone says, well, I just read the positive stuff. That's not enough. And the reason is because you need to know both sides of the issue. So start your library like I did, age 25. I mentioned in another seminar, haven't read everything in my library, but I feel smarter just walking in it, right? And smart enough to buy it. Now I got to be smart enough to read it all. Then I got to be smart enough to sort through and decide what's valuable. So make that the next part now. In part of personal development for the mind, you got to sort through what you read, what you see, and what you hear, and decide which of all of that is valuable for you to try and do and master. This is where being a student comes in. Not a follower, but a student. You read one book on good health and it says, do what this book says, you'll live forever. You read the next book on health and nutrition and it says, if you do what that first book says, you'll die young. So someone says to me, Mr. Rohn, which of these books should I follow? Jot this down. Neither one. Don't be a follower. Read both books and make up your own mind. Here's what's important in the final analysis. One of the best phrases for the day, make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Meaning you don't just follow, but you listen to both sides of the argument. You listen to the controversy. You try to master the points on both sides or three sides or whatever. Then you start charting your own course. It doesn't say you'll make always the right decision on what course to take or what to do. You can refine as you go. But make sure that what you do is the product of your own conclusions. Conclusions from the debate. Conclusion from what makes the best sense to you to try. Now, jot this down. Also give yourself a chance to change. Some things I held on to that I thought this was it. I'm telling you, after a while I gave it up, found out it wasn't it. So give yourself a chance to change. Refine your philosophy. Refine your direction. If you'll give yourself a chance to do that, here's what will happen down the road a ways. A new door will open that you haven't discovered before. Give yourself a chance to change. Reevaluate. So let your library be a testimonial of your dedicated interest in accelerated personal development, that you will read whatever you have to read, you will hear whatever you must hear, and you will watch and see whatever you must see in order to make your life refined and worthwhile and achieve all of your purposes. It takes a lot of effort to learn. It takes a lot of effort to grow. It takes a lot of effort to decide and debate. But jot this down. It's all worth the price.
Now, it's also very important intellectually to know whether or not you're headed this way or this way. And once you decide, 10 years from now, I think that the gathering of my intellectual and personal and spiritual and moral and economic treasure may not be that great. The key is to start right now making these changes to walk this new road. But here's what's exciting to me. Just a few daily disciplines makes a great deal of difference in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Just a few daily disciplines. And that's what I'd like to talk about in this series, just these few daily disciplines that make the difference, whether you wind up here or here. Good question. 10 years from now, you will surely arrive. The question is, where? We don't want to kid ourselves about where. We don't want to kid ourselves about the road we're walking. I had a day shortly after I met Mr. Schoaf called Do Not Kid Myself Anymore Day. I don't want to go disillusioned anymore. You know, I was using the cross-finger theory back when I was 25, 24, 23. I finally decided that the cross-finger theory was not going to get me what I wanted. That isn't where the treasure lies. That I'm going to have to make sure which of these ways I'm headed. But a few reading disciplines and a few disciplines of mind and a few disciplines of activity, and you can make all the difference in the world whether you wind up here or whether you wind up here. But just a few changes. Sometimes we get the idea that we're doing about 10% and there's about 90% more that we need in order to make the difference for our fortune. And probably the opposite is true, right? We're doing enough things to have arrived here today. We're doing enough things to have bought and shared in the good life so far. And maybe all you need is that extra 5%, 10% of intellectual change, activity change, a refinement of discipline, a refinement of thought. And all we need is the ideas to make those simple changes. And the equity starts gathering in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I have a good comment for your notes. Now's the time to fix the next 10 years. Now's the time to fix it. Now, sometimes you have to come to grips with reality and with truth. That's what was good for me when I met Mr. Schoaf. I was 25 years old. He was 44 years old. And he brought me a wealth of experience, and he started asking me the tough questions. Big question, he said. Are you reading the books that's going to take you where you want to go in the next 5 years? Excellent question. So you want to make sure. I would assume for all of you, to get where you want to be in the next 5 years, you're either reading the right books or you're not. That's kind of a brilliant statement, right? You're either engaged in the disciplines or you're not. But here's what we don't want to engage in. Disillusion, right? Hoping without acting. You know, wishing without doing. So the key is to take a look and say, where am I? What could I do to make the changes, to make sure that I can take more certain daily steps toward the treasure I want, the mental treasure, the personal treasure, the spiritual treasure, the financial treasure. I don't want to make any errors. Now's the time to adjust my daily program to take me where I want to go. A good note for you to take. We could all use a little coaching. When you're playing the game, it's sometimes hard to see it all. And if you just take a breather, take a little time out. That's what we're doing here in this lecture series. Take a little time out, listen to someone's experiences, which is what I want to share with you, my experiences, my ideas, and see if it might cause for you a little moment of correction so that you can make some changes that'll add up to some extra worth in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So, ideas, I hope you'll find here during this series. All kinds of ideas, health ideas, enterprise ideas, living a better life ideas, and primarily for this series, skills of leadership ideas. The next key word is inspiration. Inspiration is a mystery, why some people are inspired and some are not. Who knows what that mystery is? Some people have this incredible zest for life and an appetite for living well and doing well, and others seem to take the ho-hum attitude, let it slide, and hopefully it'll work out anyway. I don't know what the difference of that is, but it is exciting to watch people who are inspired. But I think the key to it all is self-motivation. Self-motivation. The guy says, boy, if somebody just come by and turn me on, hey, what if they don't show up? You got to have a better plan for your life. Personal inspiration, drawing emotional vitality from life and the challenge, going for it. We all admire that. I think my personal advice to you would be, and reach down inside of you and come up with some more of those remarkable human gifts. They're there, waiting to be utilized. And then change anything for you want to change. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. Let other people lead small lives, but not you. Let everybody else cry over small hurts, but not you. Let everybody else argue over non-essentials, but not you. Deal in things that matter. Make sure what you do is the product of your own conclusion. Don't just learn how to earn, learn how to live. And that's what lifestyle is all about. Learning how to live. Here's one of the great challenges of life. Being happy with what you have while in pursuit of what you want. So develop your lifestyle a little more. Your style of seeing, giving, sharing, enjoying. It's not the amount that counts, but the experience of choosing to live with style. I remember saying to Mr. Schoaf one time, if I had more money, I would be happy. And he gave me some of the better words of wisdom when he said to me, Mr. Rohn, the key to happiness is not more. Happiness is an art to be studied and practiced. He said, more money will only make you more of what you already are. More will only more quickly send you on to your destination. He said, if you're inclined to be unhappy, if you get a lot of money, you will be miserable. More money will only make you more. More money will only amplify. If you're inclined to be mean, and you get a lot of money, you will be a terror. If you're inclined to drink a little too much, when you get a lot of money, you can now become a drunk. So style is not more. Style is an art, a genius, a design. Lifestyle is reserved for those who are willing to study and practice the higher arts of life. Lifestyle is culture, music, dance, art, sculpture, literature, plays, concerts. Lifestyle is a taste of the fine, the better, the best. Mortimer Adler, the philosopher, says, if we don't go for the higher tastes, we will settle for the lower ones. So develop an appreciation for the fine. That is a worthy purpose. Developing an appetite for the unique things in life. Study the art and reach for the best.
to have the best in the time we have available to us, that is the quest. Remember, it's not the amount, it's the imagination.
Be somebody. That's a good challenge. Be somebody. Be somebody wise. Be somebody strong. Strength is attractive. Be somebody kind.
Now consider this. Some people have plenty of beautiful things filling their days, but they get little happiness from them. Some people have money, but they have trouble finding joy in their lives. Imagine a father wads up a $5 bill and throws it at his son, saying, "Here, if you need the darn stuff that bad, take it." Same money, poor style. And remember, it's not the amount that counts. It's the style that counts. Mr. Shoaff taught me lifestyle in those early days, starting with small amounts. He said, imagine that you're getting your shoes shined, and the shoe shine boy has done a fabulous job. You have one of the world's all-time great shines, so you pay him for the shine. Now you consider from the change in your hand what kind of tip to give him. And the question pops into your mind, shall I give him 1 quarter or 2 quarters for my neat shine? Mr. Shoaff said, if 2 amounts for a tip ever come to your mind, always go for the higher amount. He said, become a 2-quarter person. I said, what difference would that make, 1 quarter or 2 quarters? He said, all the difference in the world. If you said, well, I'll just give him 1 quarter, that will affect you for the rest of the day. You will start feeling bad. Sure enough, in the middle of the day, you will look down at your great shoe shine and say, I've got to be cheap. 1 lousy quarter. That will affect you. However, if you go for 2 quarters, Shoaff said you can't believe the feeling you can buy for another quarter. That's lifestyle. Becoming a 2-quarter person and learning to get joy from the greater person you are becoming. Just 2 modest examples of how easy it is to put style in your life. Make sure you don't miss out. Don't miss anything you can enjoy. Be sure you live your life in style.
Now let me give you a neat part of life. The pull is in the opposite direction, and it always is. Here's what success is. Success is learning to move in the opposite direction of the normal negative pull. Success is just overcoming the normal negative downward trend. Because I guess that's what life was meant to be. Overcoming the normal negative downward pull. Success is moving in the opposite direction. Life that springs from the seed really is moving in the opposite direction. Gravity wants to pull the seed down, but sure enough, the seed being pulled down by the soil takes root, comes to life, right? Comes to life, takes root, starts to grow, and which way does it grow? Up, right? It gets the roots and the nourishment, but it grows up. It pushes its way against gravity. It moves up, and that's what success is. That's what life is, of movement in the opposite direction.
Here's something else to think about. Did you ever hear where the expression tip came from? As in tipping the waiter or waitress in a restaurant. Mr. Shoaff taught me that it began as a symbol for the phrase, to ensure promptness. Now, Shoaff said, if a tip is to ensure promptness, when should you give it? Answer, up front. See, I didn't know that. I said, no, you have lunch, and if you get good service, you leave a good tip. If you get lousy service, no tip. And he said to me, no, Mr. Rohn. Sophisticated people don't take a chance on good service. They ensure good service by giving the money up front. I said, wow, what a way to live. I had never thought of that. So the next time you have someone special to take to lunch, call the waitress over, arm around the shoulders and say, here's $5. Would you take good care of me and my friend? Shoaff said you won't believe what happens. They do what's known as hover. They hover around your table. One last major point. Life in style is also life in balance. Make sure you pay attention to all the values and dimensions of your life. One is family. If you have someone you care about, there is no value to match that. One person caring for another is life in the best of style and value. Protect it with a vengeance. If a chair gets in the way, I suggest you destroy the chair. It was wisely said so long ago, but is still true for today. There are many treasures, but the greatest of these is love. Better to live in a tent on the beach and have a love affair than to live in a mansion by yourself. Ask me. I know. Family must be cultivated like an enterprise, like a garden. Time and effort and imagination, creativity and genius must be summoned constantly to keep it flourishing and growing. Next is friendship. A priceless value, friendship. Friends are those incredible people who know all about you and still like you. Friends are those people who are coming in when everyone else is leaving. And, as someone once suggested, be sure to make the kind of friends on your way up who will take you in on your way down. Life is a bit of both up and down, but with true friends, friends who care regardless of your circumstances, the ups are more automatic and the downs less devastating. I do have one very special friend, though. If I was stuck in a Mexican jail and accused unduly, I would call this friend. Guess why I'd call this friend? He would come and get me. Now that is a friend. Someone who would come and get you. Guess how much you would spend to get me? Right, as much as it would take. Guess how long you would try to get me out? You're right, as long as it would take. That is a friend, someone who would come and get you. Now, I also have some casual friends who would probably say, call me when you get back. I guess we all have some of those friends. But friendship is so vitally important to those in search of the good life. Make sure your friendships get the attention and the effort they deserve. Properly nourished, they will give back to you that priceless treasure of both pleasure and satisfaction called the good life. And remember, the good life is not an amount. The good life is an attitude, an act, an idea, a discovery, a search. The good life comes from lifestyle that is fully developed, regardless of your bank account, so that it provides you with a constant sense of joy in living and fuels the fires of commitment to all of the disciplines and fundamentals that make life worthwhile. The first thing you start changing is what? Your philosophy. You start changing your mind. You start changing how you think. You start picking up new ideas and information. Gather new knowledge. Make better decisions about what's valuable. And I'm telling you, if you'll do that, your whole life will change. Your health will change. Your relationship with your family will change. Your ability to cope with challenges and problems will change. I'm telling you, income, promotions, all of it will change. If you will change, it'll all change. If you won't change, it isn't going to change. You can keep your fingers crossed if you want to and hope they'll straighten it out. You can wish for the wind not to blow quite as severe, but I'm telling you, wishing for the wind to change in your favor, we call naive at best. Don't do this any longer. Wish for a better wind. The key is to wish for the wisdom to set a better sail. Utilize whatever wind that blows to take you wherever you want to go. That is the philosophy I picked up at age 25, and it revolutionized my whole life. And here's what I found. I found it was easy. I got rich by the time I was 31, and it was easy. Now, here's my definition of easy. Got to jot this down. My definition of easy, meaning something I could do. I figure if it's something you can do, it's easy. Now, here's a parenthesis. Parenthesis. I worked hard at it. I found something I could do, which was easy, but I worked hard at it. I got up early and stayed up late, worked hard that 6 years. But what I did was easy, meaning it was something I could do. You say, well, Mr. Ron, if it was so easy, how come everybody else around you during that 6 years, how come they didn't get rich? Here's why. It's easy not to. How else would you describe it? That's it. You say, no. For all of the rest of them, it was hard for them and it was easy for you. That's not true. You couldn't debate me on that in front of this intelligent audience. But here's the challenge. Let me give it to you in a philosophical phrase. I tend to be a little philosophical. Here it is. The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. That's the difference between success and failure. I did not neglect to do the easy things I could do every day for 6 years. Underline. I did not neglect. That's the key. I found something easy I could do that led to fortune, and I did not neglect to do it. And here's the problem with neglect. It starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And here's what else is the problem. One neglect leads to another. Neglect to do wise things with your money, you'll probably neglect to do wise things with your time. Neglect to do wise things with your time, you'll probably neglect to do wise things with your business. One leads to another, leads to another. Pretty soon, neglect has you by the throat, emptying your purse, emptying your heart, emptying all of your chances for equities and power and all the good things. What if you should be walking around the block every day for your good health and you don't? I'm telling you, you're on the wrong track. You should do it, you could do it, you don't do it. That's called formula for disaster. All you've got to do is let that and a few other things accumulate for 6 years, and now you're driving what you don't want to drive, wearing what you don't want to wear, living where you don't want to live, doing what you don't want to do, maybe having become what you really didn't want to become. I'm telling you, that's it. Just neglect along, drift along, and it's got you by the throat. It'll take all your values, leave you with just a little bit of dust in a summer wind, and it'll soon be gone. That's it. It's where I found myself at age 25 until my teacher came along and said, Mr. Owen, up till now you've messed up. Let's see if we can't clean that up, change it all. I did. Changed my life. Not just the money, all the rest of the values that came pouring in. When I understood that it was me. It was me.
We intend to when the idea strikes us. We intend to when the emotion is high. But now if you don't translate that into action fairly soon, now the intent starts to diminish. And a month from now, it's cold. A year from now, can't be found. So act. Set up a discipline when the emotions are high and the idea is strong and clear and powerful. That's the time to set up the discipline. Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Right. You need to get a book on nutrition. Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups. Action. Got to take action. Now, here's what's important about discipline. All disciplines affect each other. In fact, here's a good philosophical phrase. Everything affects everything else. Nothing stands alone. Don't be naive in saying, well, this doesn't matter. I'm telling you, everything matters. There are some things that matter more than others, but there isn't anything that doesn't matter. That's why action is so important. The least action, the smallest action. Take it. Because when you start accomplishing and the value starts to return from that one action, it'll inspire you to do the next one and the next one and the next one. You start walking around the block, it'll inspire you to get an apple. Get an apple, it'll inspire you to get a book. Get a book, it'll inspire you to get a journal. Get a journal, it'll inspire you to grow, develop some skills. All disciplines affect each other. Every lack affects the rest. Every new affects the rest. The key is to diminish the lack and set up the new. And you've started a whole new life process. Also, one more thought on discipline. Here's the greatest value of discipline. Self-worth. Self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to discipline. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit. The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough. You say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy. I got better day by day and week by week and month by month, and I'm asking you to do the same thing until you can develop a long arm and a long reach, until you can develop influence that won't quit. Touch people next year you couldn't touch this year. Touch people now you couldn't touch before. Conduct a meeting now you couldn't conduct before. Heart and soul now mixed in there that wasn't there, missing before. I'm asking all of you to get better in spite of the winters, in spite of the downturns, the money downturn, the social downturn, the personal downturn, whatever it is. Just get stronger.
You control the power to create your best self. Welcome to today's journey. We are embark on the path of self-discovery and personal transformation. Today we are diving deep into the art of creating your best self, a journey that begins within. Hey there, beautiful souls. Today we are unlocking the secret to unleashing the best version of yourself. It's time to break free from self-doubt, limitations, and set into the extraordinary life within for you. The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Ralph Waldo Emerson. If life does not get better by chance, it gets better by chance. Jim Brown. Your journey starts with a decision to make, take control of your life, your choice and your destiny. Creating your best self is not about perfection, it's about progress. Embrace the journey, learn from the setbacks and celebrate your victories, no matter how small. One of the ingredients in this transformative process is goal settings. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to become? Set clear, realistic goals and watch as they propel you forward. Your mind is full of powerful tools. Cultivate a positive mindset. Believe in your abilities and let go of self-limiting beliefs that hold you back. You are capable of more than you can imagine. Just like a seed transforms into a beautiful flower, your potential is limitless. Natural your growth. Invest in self-care and surround yourself with positivity. Gratitude is the fuel that propels your journey forward. Take a moment each day to appreciate the small blessings, express kindness and watch as your life transforms. As we wrap up today's journey, remember this: creating your best self is a continuous process. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories, and never stop evolving. The power to shape your destiny lies within you. Thank you for joining us on this empowering adventure. Now go out there and create the masterpieces that is your life.